Travis Wayne Goodsell. I have a somewhat new followers. They're a couple, James and Jasmine. They have a brand new YouTube channel. It says they are an interracial couple, and they are DJs. And what caught my attention was their Timezone, World Destruction, parentheses, SNOOPZ, DNC 132 remix. So I listened to it, and it's an age-restricted video requested by Uploader. And so we're going to talk about Section 132. As they are young, they are new, and they're being hypnotized by John Delenn. As you can hear his voice. And so I've been doing videos for a number of years. Got over 3.2K videos. And I've talked about this subject a lot because I do actual research on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was born and raised in the covenant. I received my endowments on May 6th, 1989. And so I know all about the sustaining vote. It's faith promoting. And I've done numerous videos in connection with the Brigham Young's Temple Endowment with Section 132 because they're intrinsically interconnected, along with the sealing. And because James and Jasmine are new and young, they do not know the full horrors that was in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Because Brigham Young not only denied blacks the priesthood, he also condemned women to die if they were to have sexual relations, let alone marriage, with a black man. You were condemned to death as a Mormon girl. It gets uglier. That's what all this is about. And so just because Benson took it away for 1991, Nelson, by bringing it back, Section 132, he's bringing it back. 2019, he's bringing it back. Are you obedient, Mormons? You have to be obedient. You can't just have a shared experience and feel good. You have to actually obey. So are you being obedient and starting up polygamous relationships? Now, as I've gone over with you, Section 132 is a fraudulent document. It's forged. It did not exist prior to when Brigham Young put it in his Doctrine and Covenants in 1876. Just so that you know, Joseph Smith died July 27th, 1844. And because this scripture that all of a sudden appears in 1876's Doctrine and Covenants, everybody then assumes it must be by Joseph because it says it's by Joseph from 1843. This was when Joseph Smith supposedly was sealed to his 32 wives, as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints finally came out and claimed to confess that yes, Joseph Smith was a polygamist. Because previously to that time, they said, no, Joseph Smith was not a polygamist. We don't practice polygamy either. Well, that comes from the Edmunds-Tucker Act of 1887 that shut down the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It ceased on the face of the earth. Did you know that? Well, the prophets never told you. They let you believe it always was there. And they had a prophet at the head of the church to prove it. So, official declaration number 1. This was given supposedly by Wilford Woodruff, and it's during the time when the United States shut down the church. It ceased to be a corporation. It was all of the property of the church was confiscated. The church had to rent them back. They got deep into debt because of this. Because the church was using tithing to commit crimes, for which the Edmunds-Tucker Act was made to stop this criminal organization. Oh, you thought it was for polygamy? Oops. You see, kids, when you involve money for your criminal operations, it turns those other operations into a more serious crime. So polygamy, yeah, it was already illegal in the United States, but to add money to it, and now you've got sex trafficking, as well as prostitution. And so, yeah, this is what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints doesn't want you to know and understand. And I am always laughing at verse 11. The Lord will never permit me or any other man who stands as president of this church to lead you astray. Oops. It is not in the program. It is not in the mind of God. If I were to attempt that, the Lord would remove me out of my place. How would we know as a Mormon if the Lord removed a president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Well, I've done those videos too. Sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven. Yep, every single one from Brigham to Monson. God disapproves of his church? Are we sure it's his church? Nelson says it's not, but nobody wants to believe me. And so he will, any other man. Yeah. There's others that have also been involved. The 3, Perry Packer Scott. Yeah, the tetrad with the sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven. And even Bruce R. McConkie. I will know no better than I know now that God hates me for lying about him. Yep, hilarious. And so one of the things that John DeLynn did not know from the clip, as he was trying to scare his viewers which James and Jasmine heard and put in their little video DJ remix, which, yes, it'll be in the theme song in the description below, is that the church, because of the United States of America, do not teach Section 132. But if you know that scripture chapter section, you will notice that Nelson, after bringing it back in the law of chastity, has begun to quote from Section 132. You see, the latest Instagram thing he did, which I did a video of, because that's what I do. You see him reading his scriptures. And even with James E. Faust, or not James E. Faust, M. Russell Ballard with his death, yeah, they also had pictures out of him holding scriptures open. The church wants you to believe that they follow the scriptures, but they don't, because there's a contradiction. Why do we have official declaration number 1 and not remove Section 132? Because the United States, no more polygamy. Can't practice it in the United States of America. It is a crime, especially when you involve your tithing with it. And yet the church still has it. And it just magically appeared 1876 under Brigham Young. Well, this is why the church set it all up under Brigham Young, because of what they're planning to do this year. And it's already begun. It's already in the works. Can't stop it now. Nobody wants to listen to anybody else. Armageddon has begun. Church is getting their kingdom back, and they will destroy world destruction. Ta-da! I tied it into your remix. To make it happen. And yes, child, bride, polygamy. I didn't hear child bride in there anywhere, because I've done the video about that with Willard Richards, the one who was left behind in Carthage jail after Joseph Smith chased out the mob. And yet Joseph Smith somehow was murdered in the room after chasing out the mob. Who was left in the room? These are the things you gotta pay attention to when you're doing research on church history. You don't just read Section 132 and just automatically believe that it's by Joseph Smith. And so then other people's journals that were written after Brigham Young got up at the pulpit of conference for his followers, declaring that all Mormons must now practice polygamy. Because remember, it was the Danites who were doing it in secret. And it was the Danites who went with their polygamous wives to this valley. And then the United States took over the land the very next year. And so Brigham Young, pissed, incorporated the Perpetual Immigration Fund that next year, 1849, to traffic the Mormons who did not practice polygamy, didn't even know we were supposed to be practicing polygamy because they were in Joseph's church, but were given the wrong name by Brigham Young and his Danite missionaries, told it's the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ, setting it all up to destroy Joseph and frame Joseph and murder Joseph and steal his church and use the Book of Mormon as another testament of Jesus Christ instead of the learning of the Jews. Book of Mormon, in case you didn't know because you didn't bother to read it, has anti-polygamy messaging 6 times. 6. And yet Joseph was supposedly aware of the doctrine of polygamy as a revelation from God, despite the Book of Mormon. And so, yes, Brigham Young lied. That's what John DeLynn and everybody misses. And so when the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints claims they're finally confessing that Joseph Smith was married to 32 or whatever wives, they're lying still. They're claiming this was done in 1843. But like Willard Richards' child bride sisters, it was in 1846. And because they were the Danites, and because they didn't want to be known to other Mormons who were not partakers of the heavenly blessing of the eternal covenant of marriage. Child bride marriage in the celestial kingdom. Yeah, they had to do it in secret. And so the Nauvoo Temple was finally built, and in January, before it was even dedicated, Brigham Young wrote a book about all the sealings of polygamy that they performed. And Willard Richards was the scribe and was even for his child bride marriages, which publicly he claimed was by Joseph Smith in 1843 too. They lied. If you're gonna lie, don't keep records of it. You're supposed to destroy all the evidence. That's why the perfect crime is exceedingly difficult, because everybody always leaves some kind of evidence behind, and so it's very difficult. And so the best way to commit the perfect crime is not to actually do the crime, but get somebody else unaffiliated with you to do the crime for you. That is the perfect crime. And we're witnessing to it of the Armageddon War, as this was the church's plot the whole time, and they're not doing any of it except paying them. Oops, financial documents. Oops. Not so brilliant, are they? And so yes, there were no sealings performed by Joseph in 1843. And in fact, was it 1844 or was it 1843? Let's check. John C. Bennett. Rock Lobster. 1842. Now, May 11th, 1842, Joseph Smith excommunicated John C. Bennett for, wait for it, polygamy. And so what would he go on to do? He confessed. This wasn't a situation where he was being framed and Joseph Smith was having to cover his ass to, have John C. Bennett take one for the team. You're making up stories that way. No, this was very clear cut. He confessed and was excommunicated by Joseph Smith. And so afterwards, it was him who influenced the guy who wrote the article in the Nauvoo Expositor that got Joseph Smith in the Carthage jail to be assassinated. He couldn't go back to the Danites, and he claims they tried to assassinate him, and as they were disguised as women rather than blackface this time. Oh, dear God. And so, yeah, he then accuses Joseph Smith of being the one who ordered the Danites. And this goes all the way back to 1838 with the coup. And this is what he was doing. He couldn't go back to the Danites because he got caught by Joseph. And so he then helps the Danites by claiming that Joseph was the leader of the Danites who ordered his assassination through the Danites, when he then goes on to form his own Illuminati Halcyon order. Ever wonder what the inverted pentagram on the Nauvoo Temple, the Logan Temple, the headquarters of the Salt Lake Temple on the Keystone even? Ever wonder what that is and why it's there? Is it Jesus and his second coming? Nope. Illuminati. They're still here. They're among us. They are evil. And so, yeah. And so as a result of the United States, my third great aunt, Desdemona Fulmer, that's how I knew about it. I knew about it before the church came out and confessed that it was the wrong year. I knew that the church was lying about it when they came out and supposedly confessed. Because John Solomon Fulmer went with her to this valley. And so it was passed down through my family, so that I knew that it was 1846 when she was sealed to Joseph Smith, so that she then could come to the valley, because she didn't want to be married to a Danite. But she knew she had to go because John Solomon Fulmer was given information whispered by Joseph Smith in Carthage jail. Has to do with the Holy Grail, Knights Templar, Honey Python, and the Holy Grail. Robin thought that was fun. And so, in Sunday school, whenever it's the Doctrine and Covenants year, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints skips over section 132. They don't talk about it. If anything, they'll cover the official declaration, but why? Unfortunately, now that Nelson has quoted from it over the pulpit of conference, it now has to be put back into the manuals. And so Mormons now can go to section 132. But when I was newly married, went up to Canada, where she was from, southern Alberta in McGrath. We're at church and in Sunday school. I didn't know the teacher and his background, but the whole neighborhood did. And he was divorced, and he was a fellow firefighter, as I got brought into the fold for. And he was given the lesson, and it was on section 132, or supposed to be. And he wanted to talk about polygamy. And as he began to do so, the whole audience immediately talked over him to shut him down and shut him up and not talk about it. Saying, we don't talk about this. Nope, we're not going to talk about it. Nope. And it's because of official declaration number 1, United States. Can't practice it, can't talk about it. Wilford Woodruff came out and said, we won't talk about it, we won't practice it. Prophets will never deceive you. Will never lead you astray. And this is why it is not referred to in seminary, institute, church, conference until Nelson, when he changed the law of chastity. You guys are not taking this seriously enough. When Nelson changed the law of chastity, you're supposed to obey. But you got a shared experience, just a feeling. You don't actually obey. Oops, that backfired. And so, as a result, by being a faithful feeling Mormon, you'll just go along with the flow when they conquer the world and restore their deseret and start practicing polygamy again. Child, bride, polygamy. And if that makes you uncomfortable with the wrong feelings, you got to get the right feelings as a shared group experience. Now do you see what the brainwashing is leading you to? John DeLynn, you should have warned them. You are a psychologist. You should have known this practice. You do it on your patients. I mean viewers. And so, yeah, it's extremely scary. You know, it's not talked about as religion because there's death penalties involved. Yes, Section 132 is scary. It even talks about how you can commit any crime you want except for murder. And you'll still be exalted. But yeah, it's claiming that Joseph had gone to Emma with this revelation. Hey babe, I'm going to have sex with other women. Hope you don't mind. You're going to die if you don't let me. No, it never happened. The Danites made it all up. And this was part of what was in the Nauvoo Expositor thing. Some of the wording was taken from that, and Joseph didn't write it. It was just John C. Bennett spreading the misinformation. Yeah, she died 1879, 3 years after it came out. And so, yeah, nobody went to her to confirm if this was true. But Oliver Cowdery, in his publication Defense, did the video not too long ago. Yeah, David Whitmer came to him and confirmed John C. Bennett that Joseph was the leader of the Danites. Tried to assassinate David Whitmer. No, the Danites lied. It was Brigham Young who was the leader of the Danites. Because who got arrested in Liberty Jail? Joseph did. Who rose to power and took over the church? Brigham did. It's obvious who's the leader of the Danites. Oh, dear God. So, that's some fun stuff for you of Section 132. That it was all a Danite plot. It's them who are that evil. And Nelson is dipping down lower than the Danites by going to 11-year-old girls. When they're old enough to bleed, they're old enough to breed, as my little peers told me in grade school. I didn't understand what that meant back then. Bleed? What? We all bleed. I bleed. I don't understand. And so, yes, you can see why the church has been so abusive to women. It's to subjugate them to men and patriarchal authority. To wear them down, beat them down, and force them to obey. And yes, there has been uprisings, and the church beats them down. Oh, Kate Kelly thinks she's going to tell us how to run this church, does she? Excommunicated. Oh, but women, we're letting you wear slacks at church now. See, we're good. We love you. Oh, look, we've created councils where women can participate in those councils. Still no priest in a priesthood office. Jesus doesn't like that. He gets angry a lot nowadays under Nelson. It's wrathful Jesus now. And yeah, you still have to obey your husband despite the changes in the temple endowment. You got punked. He changed it to Jesus. Who speaks for Jesus? Nelson speaks for Jesus. Nelson tells you to obey the family proclamation. What is in the family proclamation? Yeah, you have to obey your husband. You got punked. And so, yeah, James and Jasmine, it's a lot more evil than you've been led to believe. So yes, Section 132 was also used for interracial relationships by Brigham Young. Or after Brigham Young, because it was the year before he died. And so, yeah, there were some problems when Brigham Young finally told the rest of the Mormons who were trafficked to the valley in 1851, telling them they now had to practice polygamy openly in defiance of the United States, is that all the wives, extra women, were married off to the Danites. And yes, they did complain. All your Danites already have all the women. Well, go on a mission and get them. Well, your Danites are already missionaries and marrying the ones they convert. And so another interesting thing is that Brigham Young also never published until 1876 also, Section 131. This was of Joseph Smith. This was a legitimate document. And Brigham Young just refused to have it published after Joseph Smith died. Until 1876. And it was of Joseph legitimately talking to, from what I understand, Benjamin Franklin Johnson and his monogamous wife. 1843. And tells them that their monogamous relationship, when sealed in the temple, will grant them access to the celestial kingdom. But Brigham Young gutted it, didn't he? Because you won't find it in Section 131. You have to go to the Joseph Smith papers. Benjamin Franklin Johnson was the same guy who joined the church under the Church of Latter-day Saints, and moved his family in 1838 to Adam Ondi Amen, and was instantly arrested and threatened while incarcerated in Adam Ondi Amen to denounce Joseph Smith's church and denounce the Book of Mormon. And he didn't. He says he didn't deny the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the rifle or pistol somehow misfired magically. And so after that, Heber C. Kimball rewarded him with an advancement in rank. Who's Heber C. Kimball again? The number one to Brigham Young. Yeah. And so, yes, he would then go on to claim that Joseph Smith also sealed him to plural wives in 1843 too. Oops! The Joseph Smith papers are exposing a lot about those Danites. And so, yeah, all of it was a fraud. Everything you think you heard, every woman's journal, it's all from the Brighamites, aren't they? The ones who were sex trafficked, who were under penalty of death, who wrote in their journals that they had babies with Joseph. They didn't. They lied because Brigham Young threatened them to lie. So sorry, Fawn Brody, you got punked. Sorry, John Deland, you got punked by believing Fawn Brody, who got punked. And rough stone rolling and journal entries about Joseph seeing the angel with wings and a flaming sword. Nope, Danite, Brigham Young's after 1851. Everybody had to now frame Joseph Smith to legitimize it, because the United States says it's illegal. And I should probably add the other document that disappeared with the 1876 edition of the Doctrine and Covenants. It's like I said, if you're a criminal, you gotta hide the documents that expose you as a fraud and a criminal to cover up your crimes. Joseph Smith had a whole chapter since the 1835 edition of the Doctrine and Covenants. And so all that time, despite Brigham Young getting up at the pulpit of conference and saying, practice polygamy openly in defiance of the laws of the land, Article of Faith number 12. But Brigham Young never had that published. That was the English president, mission president, made the pamphlet, brought it back. It got published under John Taylor as a separate book, but was not made part of our canon of Scripture as the Quad until the 1981 edition of the Triple Combination. So, yeah, Brigham Young wanted nothing to do with any of that. But, yeah, a whole chapter on monogamy condemning polygamy by Joseph Smith since 1835. And yet, let's see if I can find out the year. I looked it up one time and then I forgot it because it's associative memory, not memorization. What year did... Well, let's just... Destroying Angel threatens Joseph Smith to practice polygamy. What are you doing? No! What the bleepity bleep? What are you doing, Google? So yeah, it was Angus Cannon who wrote about it. Oh, it must be true. And so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, their God, after receiving a revelation commanding him to practice plural marriage, Joseph Smith married multiple wives and introduced the practice to close associates. Really? Shh, don't tell. Where's the date? Oh my God. Let's look at Ensign Peak Foundation, see if they'll give us the date. They have the quote. Oh, it's a PDF by Brian C. Hales. The accounts of the angel with a drawn sword. Let's see. Indicates Joseph Smith contracted his first plural marriage in 1835. Yep, he practices plural marriage but publishes monogamy. Yep. Brian, this is not how you do research. Oh my hell. His February 16th, 1832 revelation spoke of the celestial kingdom. Oh no, never mind. That's section 76. If you're like, well, what was it, Travis? Do not want to take all day on this. Reliability of the angel sword narratives. The Joseph Lee Robinson account may be never ever put may or could be, might be. It's possible. We speculate. That is not research. As early as 1843 or 1846. There's a big difference. Because Joseph died in between that. Brian, you suck. Dear God, and lots of people are using Brian's work. Dear God. But current available transcripts suggest it may have been written or transcribed in 1853. Another second-hand rendition written in 1854 by a non-Mormon. Ferris. I wonder if he was the excommunicated man with the daughter in our ward in Corona. My dad was his home teacher because he was excommunicated. He's not allowed to attend church, but because of his daughter, they wanted to keep in touch to make sure that she gets baptized, as she still was, I guess, because she was a teenager when I was. Yep. Interesting. Well, too bad I didn't marry her. We could have found out genealogy and would have known that answer. Prior to 1854. Yeah. But they're not telling me. Yeah, here they say, Church Patriarch Hiram Smith. Brian, you dumbass. As if he's some other guy. He's the brother. Did not accept plural marriage, polygamy. Until, they also accused him. And just weeks prior to his supposed conversion to polygamy, Hiram Smith plotted to entrap Nauvoo polygamists. Who? Danites. Not Joseph. Oh, possibly. There's that word again. Possibly, maybe, could be. We speculate that. Not realizing that Joseph was one of them. Oh my God, Brian, you suck. Dear God, you suck. Levi Richards recorded. He's a Danite. Oh my God, Brian, who gives you authority? You're just a regular Mormon publishing a book. No education. Oh my God. But still, I'm not finding when this supposed revelation occurred. Oh my God. Because they're saying 1843, and it's got to be earlier than that. Because the Doctrine and Covenants, section 132, claims that Joseph Smith had it as early as 1831. Oh my God. And these people are believed. It's just, oh my God. I mean, maybe I'm spoiled. Yeah, 1831. Oh God. That my education there in southern Alberta at the University of Lethbridge, it's just far superior. It was the number 5 university in the world at the time. And yeah, it was finally at my speed, because I just got sick and bored with school. They weren't teaching me anything. I was being forced to memorize and regurgitate on tests. And so, to counteract that, as a little kid in grade school, I taught myself to use associative memory to become an A student. I was bored in school. It wasn't challenging me until the University of Lethbridge. And then they taught me how to learn, put everything together, and 6 months after I graduated, I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. Which then, shortly thereafter, when I started looking at it, because I went to the vocabulary test to confirm the script first, and then finally said, you know what, I should probably get to Egyptian. Ta-da! Deciphered the learning of the Egyptians and the language of the Egyptians, not the learning of the Greeks in the language of the Egyptians from the Rosetta Stone. So that's why there are a number of signs missing in the sign list. Analyzing the angel sword accounts. Benjamin Franklin Johnson and Eliza R. Snow may have repeated information gathered from other people. Yep. Certain people, once you identify them as a Danite, when you see them in other situations post-Danite, you now have a red flag that you're being lied to, or you've got a forged document involved. In case you are unaware of why I'm condemning Brian Hales. He's not giving us the date of it. Now, he's trying to justify it from Numbers 22. It could be true because this passage in Numbers 22. Oh my God. It's like you don't even learn from Mormon apologists who pull the same stunt to prove the church is true. You try to prove the church isn't true with the same fallacy arguments. Being imperfect. I was tempted. They're not giving me a date, you dumbass. And there's a Melvin J. Ballard Sr. Was undoubtedly, possibly, maybe, could be, the potential problems with the angel sword accounts. An 1888 biography of his grandfather, Heber C. Kimball, includes the following statement. Yeah, we can trust Heber C. Kimball as he told the truth about Masonry in Wikipedia. In case you're wondering why I'm laughing, he lied. The whole thing was a lie, but in the lie reveals the truth, and thus the coming forth of the Book of Mormon. A grand and glorious principle had been revealed, and for years had slumbered in the breast of God's prophet, awaiting the time when, with safety to himself and the church, it might be confided to the sacred keeping of a chosen few. That time had now come. An angel with a flaming sword descended from the courts of glory and confronted the prophet, commanding him in the name of the Lord to establish the principle so long concealed. It's Heber C. Kimball in his journal. Oh, dear God. And it's 36? 30. Okay. That of plural marriage. Wow. Yep. Yeah, that biography is just one book of lies. Oh my God. And so, yeah, it does appear to be Kimball as the source of it, to have it spread to everybody else. Because he was long dead in 1888. Because Kimball died before Brigham Young. And it was like in the 50s, wasn't it? Let me quickly download this PDF. Because it does have value against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And thus needs to be recorded for the record of the downfall of the Mormons. Okay, they're not giving us the date of when it happened, but Heber C. Kimball. This is turning out to be a much longer video. It's only 6 o'clock. I can still publish this tonight. Looks like nobody's watching my channel tonight anyway. And I'm wondering if anybody's going to watch me at all this week because of Thanksgiving. And so I think my warning voice has come to an end. 68. Yeah. So 20 years before the publication of his biography. And so he was writing this in the 50s. His journal, biography, in the 50s. He was in the valley, they were settled, and then they started writing journals. in the 50s, after Brigham Young got up and made commandments. And so Heber C. Kimball seems to be the source of the angel on the sword. And he lies, because Masonry. In 1823, what happened in 1823 in the Joseph Smith history? It's the bicentennial year. What happened? Do you know, Mormons? You gave up a long time ago, didn't you? Kimball became a Master Mason. Wow, in 1 year. Because remember, Masonry now is not the same as prior to 9/11/1826 in Canandaigua, New York. The founding of the Book of Mormon. And he claims it was Victor Flats, but that's now redlined, as that area was Scottish rites. But he says, in 1824, he sent a petition to Canandaigua, New York. Who was the Master Mason of the lodge in Canandaigua, New York? He doesn't say. It was the birthplace of the Book of Mormon, and he doesn't say that either. To receive the York Rite, not the same rite. Victor Flats, Scottish Rite. York Rites, Canandaigua. Victor Flats, Scottish. Canandaigua, York Rites. You'd have to look at a map, because Palmyra is north of Canandaigua. It too was York Rites. Hiram was a member of that lodge, not where Daddy was, because the Masonry of today is not the same as the Masonry prior to 9/11/1826. You need to know this if you're going to do research, Brian C. Hales. And so he's wanting to petition to skip all the way up to number 7, the Royal Ark Masonry. Freemasonry now is not the same as prior to 9/11/1826, the founding of the Book of Mormon. And he was accepted by who? Who was that Master Mason? Where the Book of Mormon was born on 9/11/1826. Oh, anti-Masons burned down the chapter building in Canandaigua. Oh, no documents, I guess. We'll never know who was the Master Mason at the Lodge of Canandaigua on 9/11/1826, the birth of the Book of Mormon. Nope. And thus we'll never know who rewrote the 116 pages after Junior's son died, and Martin Harris took advantage of that and stole the 116 pages that he had transcribed and went back to his Palmyra York Anti-Mason committee to see if there's any there. Yep. But he was accepted. He said so in his journal for the 1888 biography. We have to believe him. He said it. Must be true.